This is Manas from Dheya Career Mentors. Welcome to today's webinar about risk management by Vivek sir. Over to you, sir.
Let me introduce myself. Some of you may know me, but I'm a student for life, primarily of Bhagavad Gita, and I try to learn Sanskrit. I did that in school days, and I'm trying to relearn that. My current focus is, of course, career mentoring. I have been in the corporate world for the past 35 years. I have played multiple roles. I worked for various companies like IBM, Atos, Microsoft, Dell, and now I'm into consulting. I do consulting in cybersecurity, information security, risk management, developing risk registers for all organizations. I also help out in organizational project management and CMMI. And as a hobby, I'm into graphology for the past 40 years, which is interpretation of personality analysis from the handwriting. And I also analyze organization logos, as a part time hobby, you can say. So before we begin risk, I'll just talk about the agenda where I will be covering risk definitions, identification standards, the impacts, and how risk occurs, how to handle risk, etc., and the careers in risk. I would like to have a small poll here just to understand the audience. So I would set up the poll right now. If you can answer that, that will be appreciated. I'll read out the question. Risk is an uncertain event. Is risk only negative or can it be positive also? Okay, I'll be closing the poll now. We have 97% who have said risk can be positive also. So let's have a look at what risks are and how they can be negative as well as positive. Risk, as everybody knows, is a situation or anything which can have a different impact than what we expect. So if we are expecting something and it doesn't happen that way, it's considered a risk. It could be positive or negative. Generally, when we say risk, we always think about the negative aspect first. We think, something will be there, I will lose money, there could be physical injury or damage to my property or robbery, any kind of risk. But it can be positive also. And there could be some intangible loss as well. That is loss of reputation, loss of brand image, loss of social credibility. So what are the positive risks? Positive risks are situations which you can convert into opportunities to enhance your business. For example, if there is excess production. In Japan, there is a system that when they go on a strike, the manufacturing people or the workers in the manufacturing companies, they produce so much that they say that the management should not have place to store these produced items. So that is how their concept of strike is. In many countries, including India, when we say strike, we say no production should happen. So different way of looking at it. So in Japan, it's a positive risk. There is excess production, so which means more pressure on sales. It's an opportunity to sell more. Sometimes you can, fast track certain things so that you get excess time on hand or get an opportunity to get more business. Negative risk obviously are managing how to manage the adverse impacts, attrition of key people, or people like us will also say, let me take a life insurance policy because you're thinking about the negative aspect. In today's scenario, work from home, if your internet is not working, you're at a loss. So that's a negative risk. So any negative risk can have an impact, a negative impact. Positive risk will give you an opportunity to create more business. Let me give you a real life scenario now. Reliance Geo. I attended a seminar in the recent past held by the Reliance Geo CEO, and he said they had ordered a lot of Wi-Fi dongles in the last year, 2019, because they wanted to grow big. And of course, they had planned over a period of time all this would happen. But then, when the COVID 19 situation or the Corona situation came in and work from home started, they realized this was an opportunity. So they started marketing very heavily, online marketing for their dongles. They even arranged delivery people who could go and deliver them. And what they told us in that Reliance Geo seminar was almost 80 to 85% people who are working from home are using Reliance Geo dongle. So they converted it into an opportunity. Now, risk can be primary or secondary. Primary risk is the main risk as we see it. The secondary risk is it happens because we are taking some steps to mitigate the primary risk. So, because we are taking that step to mitigate the risk, there may still be some residual risk or some new risk may come up because of that situation. So, that is called a secondary risk. Now, how do you identify a risk? Various techniques are used for identification of risk, which could be brainstorming, Delphi technique, or discussions with the functional people or the people working on the job. I'm trying to bring in a little different dimension to this whole thing. I propose that the risk is based on your window of vision or what you see. When I say your vision window means if I'm a hiring manager, I want to hire say Java people, or if I'm a constructor, I'm a builder, I want civil engineers. So that is my vision that I want civil engineers for my building work. For the hiring manager, he might think that they want engineers. He will say, okay, even if there is no civil engineer, if the person is a diploma engineer, he might be able to pick up. Or, in a company where if you say you want a .NET resource, for example, but Java resources are available, the hiring manager or the talent acquisition manager might say, okay, even if he knows Java, he'll be able to pick up .NET. So based on which situation you are, if you are the hiring manager, you are hiring for your team, your window is something else. The talent acquisitions manager's window will be something else. Then it is based on perceptions and or reality. Perception is, typical perception is HR वाले हमेशा देर लगाते हैं. So talent acquisition manager will always delay the recruitment because he will not get the right resource for me within the right time. Now that is a perception. Sometimes it could become a reality in some situations, but certainly not all situations. But the hiring manager will go with that perception. Or even when you're, if you take a LIC policy, you will think that LIC means the policy will come after 2 months. That is the perception you have. Because in the past, some people may have got it after 2 months. But now the things have changed. It could come much faster. Then it is based on your understanding of the customers, which could be internal customers or external customers. So how you understand the customers, how you interpret the customers, based on that, you will identify your risk. Then it is based on your understanding of the organization's risk appetite. You are working for a company. If your company says, let me take an example that if you want to make a nut and bolt, and you say you want something of say zero point 0.5 diameter, that is the requirement. But if you say tell the quality control team or the testing team that little slight variation is acceptable, instead of zero point 0.5 it could be zero point 0.4 or zero point 0.6, means you are ready to take the risk, you are ready to sacrifice the quality. So people try to judge what is my organization's risk appetite, what is what they are ready to accept. Some organizations will say that if you make a mistake, I'm okay up to loss of say 25,000 rupees. More than that, I will be worried. People try to think that okay, my company, this is acceptable. To encounter all this or to overcome all this, the subjective approach has to stop. A person has to be objective. If you are objective, you can identify the risk properly and you can mitigate everything. And you can set up various levels, low risk, medium level, high level, and the critical level. And for everything, there will be severity, priority, escalation, which will be different. In a crisis situation, obviously, escalations have to be much faster or immediate. Actions have to be different. Some standards which are prevailing in the market, ISO has come up with ISO 31000, which is exclusively for risk management. PMI or Project Management Institute has a practice standard for risk management. Project Management Institute PM Box 6, that is the Project Management Book of Knowledge version 6. Now version 7 will be also coming this year. They also have a chapter on risk management because risk forms a critical basis for everything. Prince 2, which is the another methodology for project management from the UK, England standards. They also have their own approach of risk management. Indian Companies Act have develop certain financial controls which are mandatory for all organizations. So these also are covered as a part of the financial risk. They have to have those controls. In any company, operational controls, if they are not correct, then there are risks. So certain operational controls are also mandatory. And you can define risk in any way. You can say risk is a danger, loss, damage, or resolution in systematic knowledge, or whatever term you want to call it. So what are the types of risk in an enterprise or organization? Business applications would form a risk if they are not developed correctly, if they are not utilized correctly. Supply chain is a major risk because you may have four sub suppliers. These four sub suppliers may have on the second round of suppliers, but then somewhere it may turn out that the level 3 or level 4 supplier, they are all buying, or 90% of them are buying from one resource. And if that resource has a problem, everybody will have a problem. Same is with the customer. If you are selling only to one wholesaler, then it is a problem, because if that wholesaler refuses to buy from you, you are having in effect. Then your processes in any organization, internal or external, could be a problem. Ethics and governance, willful violations or non-willful violations, then finance, frauds, false bills. Many a times, people or some companies say that if you give false bills, medical bills, it's perfectly acceptable and you claim your medical reimbursement, which means the company is encouraging that people can give false bills. So some people will give it for medical, but some people may also give other false bills, because they'll say, okay, company is accepting it, so what is the problem? So finance should not accept false bills at all. Then marketing, of course, tall and misleading claims. My product can do this, then they will hire some big shot film star to advertise that product. Does it really do that? It's just a tall and misleading claim. In HR, of course, wrong hiring, no training, because training falls under HR, insufficient training, all these kind of things are there. There could be many more. I have just listed out a few. If we go to categories of risk, there could be strategic risk, compliance risk, operational risk, which is day-to-day functioning risk, information security risk, which are very vital these days, financial risk, and external risk. Strategic risk would be competition. You don't know what your competition is doing, how are they better than you, or are they not better than you. And even if you are better than them, they will catch up in a month or two. So that competition risk always exists. And if you feel you are the only person there or the only organization there, trust me, within a month or two, there will be a competitor who will be there. Customer expectations always keep changing. So whenever the customer does something or wants something, it will keep changing. Locations, it's a strategic risk. Where do you want to keep your factory? Where do you want to locate your office? Nowadays, if you see, because of the work from home, which seems to be working pretty well, many IT companies are considering that why not have a larger part of the workforce having work from home. So your location, work location, can be anywhere. So location also is a strategic risk. Mergers and acquisitions can become a problem. Technology, either you are too good or you are bad, or you are using obsolete technology, because every 6 months new technology keeps coming. So you have to be good, and you have to keep changing and updating yourself. The risk of new project failures always exists. Then there could be compliance risk, which could be legal. There could be legal requirements which you have to fulfill in every state, every municipality, nagarpalika, state, center. So there could be some legal mandatory risk, regulator compliances. Sometimes there could be code of conduct. Every company has a certain code of conduct. If that is not followed, also it's a compliance risk. Every company has certain ethics guidelines. If not followed, that is also a problem. Operational risk are, of course, day to day risk, which we run into all the time. Communication is the biggest risk by far, either under communication or over communication or wrong communication. But communication forms the key of operational risk everywhere. Operations obviously means you are dealing with employees and customers, so there could be customer dissatisfaction. They may be dissatisfied with the service or with the product or the design, but customer dissatisfaction exists. Employees dissatisfaction, because when you try to give increments, annual increments, obviously there are some dissatisfied employees. When you do annual appraisals, everybody can't be excellent, so obviously some employees get dissatisfied because every person thinks that he is the best. Financial risk, of course, you can run into a loss, or there could be frauds, anything. So all these are financial risks. Legal risk are, if you don't follow regulatory norms, you don't do legal guidelines which you are supposed to conduct, it's a legal risk. And customer dissatisfaction can come also because of pure poor quality of products or service. Now, poor quality of products or service is, it's a company policy that we manufacture this kind of quality, but then every customer expects the best quality with the cheapest cost. Financial risk we covered briefly: frauds, misappropriation of funds, false bills accepted for medical, house rent, etc., to save tax. Then there are poor internal audits. Internal audits are supposed to be strong, and the internal auditor should be reporting to the chief financial officer and the managing director. But if the internal audits do not happen properly, or the internal audits are poor, where they say, it's okay, even if this is not correct, it is excused, then it becomes a major problem, because at some point in time there could be a much bigger fraud, and it will be too late to do anything. Every company has to have external audit conducted. When external audits are done, again, they should be effective. If they are not effective, they look at the results of the internal audit, and they also conduct their own independent external audits. So if the external audits are poor, then obviously there are huge financial risk and financial impact. Now, with all these different categories of risk, we think of, what can happen. So let's look at some of the external risks. There could be sudden policy changes in a state or country of operation. You see the policy changes today. Suddenly now, because of the current situation, companies are hesitant to buy things from China, or they could be hesitant to buy things from some other country. So these are policy changes which happen. There could be policy changes in other countries. Suddenly you're buying from country X and they say we will increase the tax by 10%. So for you, that product becomes costly. It is not in your hand. You want that product or that item. But because of a policy change, you are running the risk of higher cost. Extra taxes can be levied. There could be extra pollution controls or some other controls which may come in. Suddenly somebody will say we need better environment, and which should be. So there could be some extra controls, extra regulations to be followed. Natural calamities like the one which has happened nowadays, Corona, that's a huge natural calamity. So all these are external risks which are not in our hands, but we have to accept them and we have to face them and find a workaround to make sure we carry on our life and we carry on the company. With all these categories and the risk, some of the risk, as we discussed, could be positive. So there are opportunities. Some are negative risk where there is a damage. So how do you assess the impact of the risk? Now here we are talking more of a negative risk. So you have to think that, what could be the possible damage visualization, what could be the possible damage, financial damage and non-financial damage. Then when will it impact? Because the risk cannot impact at every stage. There is a certain risk which happens at a certain time. So when will it impact? You will have to determine that. Then at what stage? Then why will it impact? Will it impact because of a certain situation, or will it impact because of a certain individual who is not trained properly to handle the job? Or will it impact because of some other reason? So you have to verify the situational pattern of risk. Does it happen at a particular stage or in a particular situation or due to a particular individual? Now, if it's an individual, obviously you have to think, is it lack of knowledge or understanding, or is it lack of training? Because if it is lack of knowledge or understanding, it means that individual needs to be trained properly before assigning that job. even if you have conducted training, but still that person has not understood properly. So it means you have to retrain that person. Or is it due to the process and rules being ignored? So you have developed a process where you say step one, step two, step three to be done. There could be 10 steps, for example, but the person ignores that steps. He does step one, then he goes to step four. He misses out step two and so the individual concerned is ignoring the rules of the process. So obviously, because of that, also there can be some risk involved. Now, when you are saying impact of risk, you have to also think what is the probability, what is the chances of the risk happening, percentage chances. So, what is the possibility of the risk happening, and what are the percentage chances? So percentage chances are, is it a 5% chance, is it a 1% chance, or is it a 70% chance? So depending on that probability, you have to think, what is the probability of it happening and what is the impact. And then that determines the severity of the risk. So when you combine the probability and say impact, let me give an example. If you say impact of the risk on a scale of 1 to 10 and probability also on a scale of 1 to 10. So if the impact is 5, that is, 50, medium damage of, and you determine the impact, like, damage up to 50,000, you will call it 5. Damage of 1 lakh or a physical damage or the personal damage to an individual, injury to an individual is impact of 10. And what is the probability? If the probability is 5 and the impact is 10, then it's a scale of 50, 10 into 5, which means it's a very high scale because your total level is 100, 10 into 10. So probability and impact has to be weighed carefully and it should be discussed with all the concerned people and then done. Now, when in all these processes, when we are identifying risk, we have to identify it in a systematic manner. And then every risk must have an owner. In most companies, the risks are not handled properly only because they do not have a defined owner of the risk. And it could be multiple owners. You will say somebody is responsible for the financial risk. For the information security, the CISO or information security manager should be made accountable, responsible, and accountable for the information security. So you have to have a risk owner, and the risk owner must understand what is the risk, what is the probability which the others feel and he or she feels, what would be the impact, what would be the mitigation plans, then what are the secondary risks which are arising out of all these mitigation plans, and that owner must be responsible and accountable because only then the risk will not become a crisis, otherwise it becomes a crisis. And if there is crisis, there is only panic because then everybody just runs helter skelter, nobody knows what to do. Now, having spoken about risk and the various categories, let's look at what are the generic causes of risk. Now, these are purely my thoughts based on my experience of 35 years. Primarily, I think it is insufficient knowledge of the work in hand, inadequate training. So, training and knowledge of work in hand go hand in hand. The people may not be trained properly, or they are given, training for name's sake. It's not real training per se. So, because of that, there could be risk arising out of that because the people are not trained or they have insufficient knowledge. They are unable to handle the work properly. There could be improper implementation of applications. When you say software applications or business applications, any of these applications, improper implementation, so people don't know how to utilize or make full utilization of that application, so they may misuse that or do it incorrectly leading to incorrect results, and then they will say that this software is bad or this product is bad. Even when we buy a new TV or a new washing machine, it's a product. Are we using it properly? That is why they give a manual. That is why they give a demo of the product. So that demo is nothing but kind of a training. And they are trying to enhance our knowledge how to utilize the TV with all the features or how to utilize that washing machine. Then processes not followed. Like we discussed, the process is there, but you skip in between steps. So if you don't follow that, obviously it's a risk. For products or any items, there could be no verifications or validations done. or incorrect verifications or validations. Poor control on supply chain, like what we spoke, you could have multiple levels, but then you don't know exactly from where all your items are coming. Every company has ethics or a code of conduct policy which may not be followed by the employees. At such times, the HR and the management have to take strict action. Otherwise, it becomes a problem. Then there is the decision making mechanism and escalation mechanism. Now, escalation mechanism is everybody in the company must know that what decisions who can take, because otherwise people are unclear that who will be taking the decision in certain case. Escalation also, they should know whom do I reach out to if I have a problem. Then there could be unclear roles and responsibilities, because every organization must have clearly defined roles and responsibilities. Otherwise, it is, anybody can do it, everybody can do it, but nobody does it. So either two people try to do the same job or nobody tries to do it. There could be occupational hazards. People are working outside the fact, so they should have proper gear to do it. If you see the COVID-19 situation, people have to have those hazmat suits, and all the healthcare workers, they have to be properly geared up with all the hazmat suits, as they call it, and all the masks and gloves. Wrong individuals hired, obviously. Then poor fraud prevention, where the company itself is saying that I don't mind if you give false bills for house rent and medical, then it's a problem. And risk identification is incorrect. The risks have to be identified correctly, otherwise you will always end up with a problem. Now, these are some additional causes of risk which over the years I felt they were very important. Assumptions. We assume something that this will happen. Now, these assumptions are, you don't realize the impact of that assumption. You're just assuming that this will happen, or I will get my material on time. That is the assumption. But do you know whether the party has confirmed that they will deliver on that day? Do you know whether the logistics company which is delivering the material is having their truck ready to deliver your item? So if the assumption is wrong without any basis, then obviously it's a risk. Then there is a dependency. So one is the dependency that the product which you want to buy is ready. Second dependency is that there should be a logistics company which is ready to deliver the item to your premises. So all these dependencies also become risk. At every stage of this dependency, it is a risk because you do not know what will happen. Then there could be certain constraints. Let me give you an example of a constraint. If a company is doing payroll, for example, they are doing payroll software in India. Now, in India, 1st April is the new year, 31st March is the year ending. So it becomes a constraint that if they have to come up with new software for payroll, keeping in mind all the income tax regulations, then it has to be implemented in the month of April, because otherwise it's a problem. If they implement it in the month of May, then they have to redo the April payroll because it is effective 1st April. So that becomes a constraint. So if somebody fails to identify this constraint, then it becomes a risk. In a civil engineering setup, somebody is constructing a bridge. If you have to drill down on the road and to lay the foundation for something, then they have to take the municipal permissions. And sometimes municipality may give a permission that the drilling can be done only at night or only within certain hours. So these become constraints. Otherwise, that becomes a risk. Then failure to adhere with the government policies, major risk all the time. Sometimes there could be vulnerabilities which are already existing in the company, but they get unnoticed. But that poses a risk. Like your software may have some vulnerabilities, or your other processes may have some vulnerabilities. For example, if you have a material inward outward process, the process is there. Like we discussed, that somebody may skip a few steps, that becomes a problem. But if you are sending your laptop for repairs, what do you do? Do you call the service person in your office and get it repaired in front of you? Or are you saying, I will just fill in the material outward register, laptop sent for repairs, put in whatever details, and send the laptop? But with the laptop, you are also sending your hard disk which has all the data. So that becomes a huge risk. So that is a vulnerability in your system, that you have not defined a process properly, that the laptop should be repaired within the company premises only, or you have to remove the hard disk and send it, because otherwise you are risking your information security. What do you do when you encounter a risk? Again, we are talking primarily of negative risk. Positive risk, we say we are converting it into opportunities and use it to improve our situation or the business. We try to avoid the risk. First is everything is we try to avoid. Second, what we do, we try to transfer it or share the risk. Then we think of how to mitigate the risk. That is, let me find a solution. Let me have some quick fix, which I have to do right now to mitigate the risk. Then you might think of short-term solution. How to mitigate the risk? Short-term solution is typically 1 to 3 months solution. One is immediate response or quick fix, which is an immediate response, which may or may not be required. If it is required, you will do that. Then you will think of a short term solution to overcome the risk. And then you will have a final solution that the risk will never reoccur. When you are doing a quick fix or a short term solution or a final solution, whichever way you are mitigating the risk, there is always a possibility that because of your mitigation plans, some new risk may develop. So when a new risk develops, you have to be careful about that new risk. This is that secondary risk which we spoke about earlier, which we discussed earlier, primary risk and secondary. And of course, the last is you decide to accept the risk because you think you cannot avoid it, you cannot transfer it, you cannot share it, you cannot mitigate it, or you may have mitigation plans, but at the same time, you have to accept the risk. You look at the current situation, we cannot avoid it, so we are taking precautions. Mitigation is we are taking precautions, adequate precautions, that we don't get infected. And we have also accepted the risk that yes, it is here to stay for some time. So let me take all the precautions. Let me go out only if required. So we are doing all that. Wear a mask and go out. So all these areas are there. Now avoidance is you try to think, how can I just deflect it to somebody else so I'm not involved anyway. Transfer is of course like we try to take, LIC policies or term life policy. These are all we are trying to transfer the risk and share the risk, because we are sharing the risk with someone, so the financial impact is shared with the insurance company. So you can also say that it's kind of mitigation, but you are sharing it essentially. And accepting the risk, of course, you have no choice but to accept the risk. When you're crossing the road, also it's a risk. You are accepting the risk, you are taking quick fixes or immediate actions every time you move 2 steps. You see a vehicle coming from your right or your left. You take immediate steps. Either you stop or you go ahead or you go to the right or the left and try to avoid that vehicle. So that is what you are doing, mitigation and accept. Best way obviously is to anticipate the risk. Now to anticipate the risk, which means you have to have a proper technique how to anticipate the risk, which could be there could be a discussion in the functional team. Functional team is like HR, finance. They discuss internally what could be the risk. The information security manager will be involved in information security risk. They could do brainstorming, they could do Delphi method, or they could do any other technique. But basically, they have to get together and come up with a draft. What are the risks? So if you anticipate the risk, then you are at least prepared with the mitigation plan. Prevention obviously is better than cure, so you try to be careful. So one is that you anticipate the risk and you have your mitigation plans well thought out. Be proactive, not reactive. Some of the steps we take, like when small babies are there, we give them vaccines, smallpox vaccine and other vaccines. These are all preventive steps. So prevention. On our laptops or desktops, we use antivirus software. Why do we use antivirus? It's again a prevention. It doesn't mean that our laptop may not be infected with a virus, but at least we are trying to prevent it with the latest antivirus. So it helps to visualize, think ahead with a systematic approach. So you anticipate the risk and you think of the mitigation plan. Then, of course, once you visualize, identify, you assess the risk situations, you determine what stage risk will impact, all the standard steps you follow. You look at the impact, probability, and you decide whether you are avoiding it, transferring it, mitigation, accept risk, share risk. Let me give you a few examples of risk management. Business continuity planning is a classic example of risk management for every organization. What is happening today is everybody is working from home. So what does the office do? They give you laptops. Many of them, many companies also give smartphones, or employees may have their own, or some companies may have a BYOD, bring your own device policy. So the employee brings their own laptops and we accept it. So all these things are part of business continuity planning. So company will provide these equipment so that you can work from anywhere, work from home. So that is a business continuity planning. The other part is disaster recovery planning. So to prevent a disaster, what are you doing? Every company has antivirus software. Now I'm talking primarily of all the electronic devices, that is laptops, desktops, mobile phones. So antivirus software. And if a disaster happens, then obviously, have you taken backups? If you have taken backups, have you restored the backups and verified that they work? So all these are part of disaster recovery plan. The government of India has a national disaster management team. Now this team takes care of all the risk. That is, the cyclone happens somewhere, they are involved. Anything happens, this team is the first one who is expected to rush down. And then they will involve others as required. Then there could be planned shutdowns with alternate arrangements. Now, planned shutdowns are typically every organization or every company has planned shutdowns to do maintenance work. So that happens in factories. But as a testing also, some companies may say that today we will have a planned shutdown and everybody should work from home. So it's trying to identify and ensure that alternate arrangements are working. Insurance, life insurance, medical insurance, burglary insurance, all these are, of course, part of risk management. We are trying to mitigate the risk. We keep our valuables in bank lockers. Why do we do that? We are mitigating the risk. We want our valuables to be safe, so we keep them in a bank lock. We spoke of medical aids like vaccines and polio drops. Now all these are all managing the risk, making sure the children are given all these drops and vaccines so that they turn out to be healthy adults. One thing which I wish to mention at this stage is, death too early or too late. That is why we have life insurance. Because if it is too early, then we have life insurance to ensure that the family doesn't suffer financially. Sometimes, if it is too late, some people become too old, their children may be away in foreign countries, then also they feel, it's a risk. What do I do? My children are not here, they are abroad, I don't know when they will come. So they start thinking about it. Of course, buying things in advance if you feel there is possibility of unavailability. Exams, students carry extra pencil, pen. Communication risk is a major risk. Travel risk, intellectual property risk, business applications not working, technology risk. Technology obsolescence is a major risk these days, and global situations like today are a risk. E-commerce loss, like misuse of your password, your bank accounts, that risk is also there. Supply chain risk. The list is endless, but I've just listed a few of them. As they say, with the various companies we work, everywhere it was that, and from what we have seen and now into consulting also, you may have risk management, but your management support is very crucial. If you don't have management support, everything is on paper. Then managing customer expectations, employee expectations, stakeholder expectations, everything becomes a problem, because you have to have a balancing act when you're doing all this, because managing stakeholders is extremely critical and very, very difficult, because it involves organization reputation, ensuring business objectives are fulfilled. Communication is required. Excess communication may be better than no communication. And risk management does not replace good decision making process. Now, risk management can only reduce risk. It does not eliminate risk. It allows you an opportunity to manage risk, plan for the risk, and have mitigation plan. We discussed a good decision making process. There should be a good decision making. People should know who are the decision makers and up to what level. And people should know who are the escalation people who to whom I can go to if there is a problem. To do all this, ensure proper risk, we recommend that there should be a risk management culture in the company. Now, when we say risk management culture, all the risks should be discussed internally within the functions with the risk owners and acted upon. Acted upon means you should have your plans in place so everybody knows what to do. Then risk consideration should be a part of an active decision making process. All the risk management staff must have a voice or a say in the decision making. If the risk owner says that this is a risk, we cannot do this, the management must give weightage to that, otherwise, it's useless. And proper communication of risk management as appropriate is required. At this stage, I would like to have two more questions which I would send as a poll. So I'm sending the first poll right now. I would request the participants to please answer this. I mean, I know we have a very learned audience, but I just shared my thoughts and responses would be appreciated. Okay, I'm closing this poll. 100% are saying they are better informed about the risk. And the last poll is from my side is, does risk management have a good career option? From whatever you have heard, do you think there is a good career option? I would cover that in the next slide, but I wanted to understand the views from the audience. Okay, 80% feel there is a good career option in risk management, 20% have different thoughts. Let me cover what we have. Now, when we talk careers in risk, of course, one could be a risk analyst. Now, it all depends on the importance given by the organization or by the bank for risk. So, there could be a risk analyst, there could be a risk manager. Now, these are just titles. There could be multiple titles. Like banks like Credit Suisse also have a vice president risk and a big team under that general individual. There could be chief risk officer. Like all the public sector banks also have chief risk officer. Now, their job is to ensure reviewing all the loan proposals that, from a risk perspective. So the job availability is there in banks, in financial institutions, in organizations. And given the current setup or the current frauds which are happening, I would not be surprised if more and more banks or financial institutions or organizations ensure that risk is well covered, or at least they have proper individuals who are handling their risk. All the multinational banks or even the Indian big banks have chief risk officer who are covering all the risk and vetting out proposals and developing business controls. In my view, yes, the importance was not as much as it should have been, but the importance is increasing and people, organizations will certainly go for it. And I believe that there would be a strong case in every company to have somebody who will manage the risk. If you notice that, for information security, many companies have CISO, Chief Information Security Officer. So somebody plays the role of a Chief Information Security Officer. So the importance for information security has come up. The same way information, the risk will also come up. In many companies, the CISO himself is managing all the risk for the company as well. So I think the career only stands to grow. That's my belief. Sources of all this information, of course, organization, my personal experience, knowledge of all these years, some things from Wikipedia, and these are my contacts.
Audience, if you have any questions, please ask sir in the question and answer chat. So there's one question for you.
Educational requirements, nothing in specific, but I mean, graduation helps, and whatever education you have, you can always branch off into risk. But if you are into the financial domain, then MBA or something in finance or CA in finance, and then you get on to the risk side in a BFSI. What qualifications are required and which fields risk is booming? In the financial sector, risk is definitely booming. Even in the operational sectors, demand for risk management will increase because operational risks are always there. But financial sectors, there is a definite boom. Qualifications we covered. I mean, if you are in the financial domain, being a CA or a MBA finance helps. Risk is there at every juncture. Should we be prepared mentally? Yes, of course. Even while crossing the road, there is a risk. What do? We accept the risk, we decide to cross the road, we take two steps and we look to the left and right. So we are mentally prepared to accept the risk and we have to be. There is a question, we know the known risk, what steps we take about unknown risk. Now, unknown risk that is the exact reason why you should have a brainstorming in the company function wise, so that finance with the finance team, with the HR team, with different teams, and then of all the functional managers. And when we do risk management for companies, we advise a lot of companies for various compliances also, for SOC and ISO 27000, and even for risk, enterprise risk management, where we tell them that work from home has to be shown as a countermeasure against, as a BCP, business continuity plan. Because of course nobody had envisaged this COVID-19 situation, but we had always recommended that you should have a fallback arrangement, how the risk will be managed if your office is shut down. So will people go to another city, or will they go to another location and work? So those kind of risks have been thought of. But yes, at the same time, there could suddenly be some unknown risk. One never knows. The idea of doing risk management is at least 99.99% risk are covered. That is the idea. Own business, what is the risk? Own business, everything is a risk. I mean, you are your best judge how to handle those risks and what risk can be there. I mean, the major risk can be, of course, getting the finance, then getting the orders, your supply chain, getting material from the suppliers, or even if you are in services, you are dependent on somebody. So if you do assumptions, dependencies, constraints, in my view, majority of the risk can be covered in that. Risk of inflation. Risk of inflation is, again, it's a part of financial risk. So if you want to save money, I'm just talking something little different. If you want to save money, like if you're saying that I will retire after 5 years, as an example, if you take your expenses as say 50,000 a month, I'm just taking hypothetical figures. These are not absolute figures. Then you have to think that what is the current inflation rate. If the current inflation is 5%, you have to take 5% for every year. That means after 5 years, if you are planning to retire, you have to consider 25% inflation over whatever you are spending today, and that should be your income in hand. So that is how you will have to think, because the risk of inflation is always there and there is no absolute figure, because you can only go by past estimate, which is a measure. Like if in the past average of last 10 years, you take what was the inflation, take the average and maybe take that as a factor.
If you would like to know more, please visit Dhiya's website, that is www.dhiya.com.
Thank you very much, everybody. And I really enjoyed delivering this session. And I would look forward to doing more sessions. And if you want, please do reach out to me. I would be happy to help anybody interested. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vivek sir, for putting up such an informative webinar, and a big thank you to all the attendees for being with us throughout.